On 5th May 1923, businessman Hugo Knumann founded an agency for industrial products in the German city of Essen, where he sold contact wire terminals for electric trams. By doing so, he laid the foundation for the company that would become known worldwide as Phoenix Contact.
They were solid copper parts to conduct electricity, and they had to be robust and sturdy. They were cast of copper, copper alloy or brass. We did a lot of business with Essen's public utility company. They needed these types of components, as did the transport companies.
Phoenix Elektrizitätsgesellschaft was based in the arcades outside Essen's central station. The store, the dispatch unit and the assembly shop were all housed at this location.
And this so-called assembly was not carried out as it is today with machines. There were small assembly benches, and the women had to fit in the parts by hand. All necessary parts were produced by external companies. Phoenix didn't have any of its own production facilities back then.
A friend of Hugo Knumann's inspired him with an idea for a new product.
Eine, wie ich sage, schicksalhafte Begegnung mit einem gewissen Herrn Müller.
We had a highly promising meeting with Mr. Müller,
Ingenieur,
a senior engineer of RWE, the Rhine-Westphalia Electricity Works. They were headquartered in Essen, and he came along to a power switching station.
At that time, they didn't have terminal blocks as we do today. They had ceramic blocks with 5, 10, 15, I think up to 20 terminals. The clamping units were mounted inside these blocks, and if any of the components were broken, the whole block had to be replaced. And then Mr. Knumann had a really ingenious idea when he said, well, why not split this block into separate parts and use modules instead?
And that was, so to speak, the advent of modular terminal blocks.
World War II had a severe impact on Essen. The city was decimated, as was the new company's central station facility.
Nebendran ist diese winzig kleine Firma Phoenix.
Next door was this tiny little company, Phoenix, who had been hit by the bombs just as badly. So they decided they had to move.
Thanks to relatives, Hugo Knumann was able to move operations to the small town of Blomberg, just 200 kilometers away, where he utilized an empty restaurant.
So we all went there. I was allowed to come along to have a look too. And from what we saw, we could move everything there, namely the office on the ground floor and the assembly team and a storeroom upstairs.
Josef Eisert, a senior engineer at Siemens, and was familiar with Phoenix Elektrizitätsgesellschaft's terminal block. He took it upon himself to develop the design further and presented it to Mr. Knumann in Essen.
Mr. Knumann got him to show him everything in his usual calm and friendly manner. Interesting. Mr. Eisert had everything in sample cases, so it all looked very nice.
That's how they got to know each other. And they got along well with one another. Mr. Knumann was in charge of the business side, Mr. Eisert was in charge of the technical side, as well as the customers and the buyers, and he suggested modernizing the range. With the war being over, things were easier. More and more competitors were entering the market. Everyone was asking for terminal blocks.
In 1953, Hugo Knumann died. Josef Eisert and Ursula Lampmann took over the management of the company.
In 1953, my father was 56. Others retire at that age. But he said, okay, I'll take this on. And from day one, we have to produce.
A short time later, Josef Eisert built the first production hall on a grassy field in Blomberg.
In der Halle 1
Hall 1 is where the tools were produced and the plastics production was housed. It was a small plastics production line with lots of thermoplastic processing for those days. Also a screw-making line where we produced our own screws. The assembly shop, which was still called metalworking shop back then, a small-scale version of today's operating technology, as well as a warehouse and dispatch department. All that was in Hall 1.
In order to manufacture plastics on a large scale, tool makers and machinists were needed, but they were hard to come by.
Also fangen wir an, auszubilden.
So we started training apprentices. The same day we started our own production, we employed our first apprentice. Another one of my father's, Josef Eisart's, fundamental principles was, companies who train apprentices have a head start and a future.
In addition, there was a strong desire to be independent from suppliers. As a result, high manufacturing depth became one of the company's fundamental principles.
Yes, it was definitely a strategic approach to say, we want to produce these things ourselves. We want to maintain our flexibility. But of course, we also wanted to take the opportunity, we were a small company, to be faster than perhaps external companies who would give us lower priority because of our size and low volume orders.
The brass that was being used for the clamping units up to that point was proving to be not durable enough.
Hat also dann sich mit den Hersteller Lüdenscheid
So they met up with the producers in Lüdenscheid, Mr. Berg and Mr. Nüller, and said, here's our idea. Let's make a pocket of copper, put a threaded part on the top, and then connect them and insert the screw. Lo and behold, you can make that out of copper. And some good ideas.
The collaboration with Nüller and Berg was not the only thing. Technological competence became the biggest motivational factor and the driving force for Phoenix Contact. In 1953, the company presented its products for the first time at the world's biggest industrial trade fair, the Hanover Trade Fair in Germany, a tradition that has continued every year since.
The dimensions of the stand were 12 square meters, 3 by 4 meters. There were 2 compartments inside, 2 sides, and a kind of showcase at the front. It was very, very humble.
After the death of Josef Eisart, his 3 sons took over the management, together with Ursula Lampmann.
Alle 3 Brüder waren sehr verschieden. Der Jörg Eisart war
All 3 sons were very different. Jörg Eisart was a technician through and through.
neue Dinge.
He was able to put new things into practice very quickly. But of course, he also greatly advanced the tool building division and production.
Und mein Bruder Gerd.
And my brother Gert was the businessman.
Kaufmann. Das war's.
What motivated Jörg and I was the technology.
Das war bei ihm.
His motivation was market development.
Der war ja immer
He was always tireless. So where's Gert today? Oh, in China. If you ask the next day, is he still in China? No, he's already in America. Yes, that's what he was like.
In the 50s, ceramic as an insulation and substrate material was replaced by versatile thermosetting plastic. By 1970, the company was venturing into a new area.
Wir sind verhältnismäßig früh dann in die
We went into thermoplastics relatively early, and without thermoplastics, today's electronics wouldn't exist. They simply wouldn't exist. Everything would be far too sensitive. It wouldn't be possible to build such small components. The aim was to miniaturize everything, to make everything more compact. And so this development made it crucial to start using thermoplastics. We were one of the pioneers in thermoplastics.
In the following decades, the technological advancement accelerated. Electronic circuits and devices became increasingly more common.
At that time, namely in the 70s, switchgear cabinets became more and more electronic, so it seemed fairly obvious to fit not only the terminal blocks, but also the electronics with an adequate connector element. That means a printed circuit board. The next step was going from the printed circuit board terminal block to the printed circuit board pluggable terminal block.
Industrial systems became increasingly more complex.
Damit kamen andere Anforderungen.
With that came other requirements for the operator. And so he made more out of a terminal block. There was now a need for an internal light-emitting diode. so one could follow signals.
Es wurde noch elektrischer.
It became even more electric. A relay was needed, and mounting these relays into the switchgear cabinet was something completely new. And suddenly, that was the start of interface technology. This program then became very, very diverse, with serial interface modules, with measurement and control technology, with power supply, and much more.
However, electronics became more and more sensitive to electromagnetic interference.
And then they found out that not only lightning can destroy electronic systems, but ultimately also switching operations, electrostatic discharge. This creates just as much electricity and voltage, which can destroy the electronics. And it makes no difference if it's a data bus, in a telecommunications line, in an antenna, or in the electricity supply. That's why we created overvoltage protection, so that it was possible to continue working and to make it possible to achieve a higher availability of the systems.
Another milestone for the company was venturing into automation technology.
Die erste Interbus-Vorstellung war auf
The
der
first Interbus was presented at the 1987 Hanover Trade Fair. We created quite a stir that year. Of course, it was exciting to see how everyone flocked to Phoenix to take a look at our Interbus, which no longer had any teething problems or technical snags, and was certainly unique back then in terms of its speed and range.
Every year, throughout his 25 years of service, Gerd Eisert founded a new subsidiary abroad.
Gerd Eisert, der sagte einmal in den 80er Jahren, und das trifft...
In the 80s, Gerd Eisert once said, and it holds true just as much today, think global and act local. We simply worked according to that maxim, which proved to be highly successful for Phoenix Contact.
In turn, it became necessary to create an international brand name.
Und jetzt kam der allgemeine Begriff.
And then came the general term. Not terminals, not Pintar, not Bornas, not Litimet, but Phoenix Contact.
Trust, partnership, and room for new ideas remain part of our culture till this very day.
Das Besondere ist, dass die
What makes Phoenix Contact so special is that the management actually lives by these values, treating people with trust, with respect and esteem. In other words, treating the employees on equal terms. From the management to the staff, this corporate culture is lived by everyone in the company.
In the 90s, the company continued its growth. The newly founded subsidiary, Phoenix Contact Electronics, specialized in the development and production of automation technology. Harrisburg in the USA and Nanjing in China both became independent development and production sites.
The whole corporate structure at Phoenix Contact is based on growth. The owner, the shareholder structure are always prepared to reinvest what has been earned, which not only leads to growth, but also promotes growth. It's simply the basis of what has made Phoenix Contact so successful and big. Growth has always been the key and will continue to be in the future.
Since 2001, the responsibility for the company has rested with the management team. Just a few years later, turnover exceeded the €1 billion mark, allowing Phoenix Contact to strengthen its role as the market leader in electrical technology and automation. Even with the success of that growth and achievement, the company's values remain unchanged.
The most trusted brand in the industry means that we have the highest quality relationship with our customer. So when I think of trusted, I think of it as a metric of the quality of a relationship. And so as a trusted brand, our customer knows that our brand can be relied on, that it will be delivered on time at the feature set that they want, that our people can be entrusted with our customers' needs.
Our customers' trust is essential to us. That was true in the past, it's true today, and will continue to be true in the future.